everybody, and welcome to today's meeting of the Public Works and Safety Board of Connersville. We'll be officially beginning the meeting in just a few minutes. First of all, we'll have our clerk treasurer lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Pastor Tim Phillips is here, and he will give our invocation. The invocation is for the benefit of the board members, that we make decisions that are in the best interest of our community, and your participation is strictly voluntary. Let's begin, Julie, with the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Phillips.
Board members, I thank you on behalf of our church family and our community for your dedication to Connersville and to making it the best that it can possibly be. And so my prayers for you today. Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity we have to be a part of this awesome community here in Connersville. And Lord, I pray for each one of these board members that you will bless them with the wisdom and the know-how to continue to help our community to be everything that you desire it to be. Lord, we'll give you praise for it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor. The regular meeting of the Board of Public Works and Safety of Connersville, Indiana is now in session. Roll call, please.
Jane Oakley. Present. Fran Schomel.
Present.
Leonard Urban. Mike Bishop.
Present.
Ron Coldiron.
Present.
The reading of the minutes of December 2nd, 2013 regular meeting. Any additions or corrections?
I move the minutes of December 2nd be accepted as so stated.
A second.
Thank you, Mike and Jane. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. And new business, request to open an alley behind 901 Oak Street. Carl Bergen.
His
Mrs. Bergen,
wife's
are you-
here.
Dave?
His wife's here, but I'd like to do that and
Sure.
explain the situation.
Please.
Mr. Bergen couldn't be here. He's home recovering from a visit to the hospital, I understand.
Yeah.
And his wife is here, and ma'am, what's her name?
Mary.
Mary. Okay, I'm sorry, she told me that this morning. They live at 901, all of you have a map I kind of copied this morning. John, I gave you one that I got from the surveyor's office. Did I give you another one? See it?
You were gonna get a plat map, I think.
Well, yeah, here's what that's what I got from the surveyor's office. Okay. But anyway, what we got here, if you look at your map, of course, the page is going north, and you got 901 Oak, that's where the circle is, okay? In the 800 block there's an alley between Oak and Beach Street, and it goes basically a half a block, roughly, maybe 2/3 or 1/3. But anyway, it goes up and deads in, and it deads in at the rear, not quite at the rear. It's where the circle is the property is owned by the Bergens. They bought the property over at 903 Beach Street, which is on the next street over, and it takes in all of that, including where that alley used to be. Now, the way I understand it, this alley was a plotted alley, but it was never, ever an alley. It goes to the rear of 817 Oak and deads in right there. But at 901 Oak, the alley was supposed to went all the way through, but didn't go all the way through because they used to have the old rail line that used to run from Indianapolis to Connersville, and it was a big ravine.
Traction car. Yeah.
And so that alley was never ever completed, and so it's plotted as it was an alley at one time, or used to be, or had planned on it, but never was. Well, the problem is with the Bergens at the rear of on their fence here, they got all these weeds and stuff that are growing up terribly. And they've always kind of got on the people who lived at 812 and 808, which are rental properties, and I don't think anybody's living in them right now, and I haven't had a chance to find out who owned them properties. But their property line only goes back to where the plotted alley is. Now, over the years, Mr. Bergen bought this property over on B Street and connected it with his property, which somehow took in that old alley, because there's also a ravine on the other side of the main big ditch that got filled up partially by the city. They used to throw trash in there, but eventually it got pretty much filled up where Beach Street could come across. But anyway, their concerns are that the weeds and everything are in this right-of-way of the city's old alley, and he's expressed to me that that he would like to the city to grant it to him, to where he can go over and his yards would bump up with these neighbors' yards over there, to where he would take care of it and cut it all down and everything, or he'd like to have a right-of-way behind there to get to that. I did talk to the mayor, and the place is really is real grown up. It's got some big trees growing in the right-of-way, and also the ground terrain it's got a big hill that kind of slopes off to the left. So, and the mayor, expressed to me that he didn't think that the city would ever put an alley down through there just to take care of 2 properties, or 3 properties counting that. So the question goes back is who's responsible for the weeds and stuff growing up on the right-of-way of the city. I mean, they have that. It don't belong to the people on Beach Street, and it don't belong to the people on Oak Street who's complaining. Who's supposed to be taking care of that old section of alley up to where their property line stops? And so we're trying to resolve this today somehow, whether, if the mayor said if they put it back to an alley, and if they wanted to put it back to an alley, they'd have to do it to the specs of what an alley is required to have. I don't think they really want to do that. I think they're more concerned about how it grows up so bad with poison ivy and other weeds and things like this, and it's not the responsibility of the people on Beach Street who butt up to the same problem. And so we're trying to find a resolution to that. And then after that, well, I got Dave in here also. We got some other situations to go on the same property. But anyway, that's where we are. And Mary, is that pretty well how to put it? And she's got some pictures here. You want to come on up here? And
These were taken this summer. You want me to give them to them
you
guys?
can give it to him. They can pass them on down. This is at the rear of 901 Oak Street, and that's where the alley, the invisible alley is. And you see on here, I drew a red line down through there where, I hope you can see it, from A Street on up, almost halfway, it dead ends there. But that's the imaginary alley, which they own part of it anyway, up into the property. And then, of course, over on, if it comes off Beach Street, that's just, them people don't even know it. They got a yard, and fence and everything else up over. It's something that it was plotted but never done. So the question is, who takes care of all the vegetation and all this on this right-of-way that the city has? Or can, I don't think they'd have a problem with it if they could get it given to them, but that's something that's kind of up in the air here. So, Mary, I'll let you go from here and...
You pretty much said it. I called 3 or 4 years in a row, because that's what it looks like since I've lived there. And the city has come up and mowed it several times, but they leave like 15 feet in between their yard and our yard, so those weeds and there's a lot of poison oak. And then we have that big hole that's on the north of us, and we're in the process now of getting those trees took down so we can fill that hole in. And it's poison ivy, poison oak, raccoons. We can take care of the side, but we don't know what to do about the back.
The city would need 15 feet of access.
Yeah, they didn't mow that far. I mean, yeah. Looked like they needed a hay baler out there by the time I called them, because the grass and weeds and stuff was almost to the eave of the houses back there. And then when they didn't mow the 15 feet, I just kind of quit calling them when it got bad, because I still had the poison ivy coming in.
Fran, I have a question for Mr. Baker, if I may.
Yeah.
If it was plotted as an alley, but never completed as an alley, then who does the property belong to?
That was my question.
It appears
I'm
to
sorry.
be a platted alley, and presumably, like the streets, it was dedicated to the city when the plat was recorded. That's pardon me, the presumption you have to make. I don't have anything that confirms that, but that's the presumption. And the city has no obligation to improve a platted alley. In other words, the city has no obligation to pave it, gravel it, do anything with it at all. They can just be there. It's in the subdivision as a platted alley in the city. If it was dedicated to the city, it belongs to the city, like the streets. So there's no obligation to improve it, and we have a lot of them around town that are that way, unimproved alleys.
Well, somebody told my husband they had to have that right of way so they could get up there and work on them wires and stuff, but a squirrel actually blew that, yeah, that transformer, and those guys couldn't go that way. They went over on Beach Street, and then they ended up having to carry like bunch guys, and they put it on both sides. Guys was carrying the new transformer down from Beach Street down to that transformer, because they couldn't get to it.
John, I have a question too. Don't property owners pay taxes actually to the middle of an alley or middle of a street?
Yeah.
So really, they own it, but they can't access it as far as blocking it, correct?
It depends on whether or not it's an easement or a platted alley.
Oh, okay.
And what we don't have enough information before us to tell us that. If it's a platted alley, it was more than likely dedicated to the
Yeah, they
city.
would.
If it's an easement for an alley, then the property owners on either side own one half of each, up to the center line on each side, subject to an easement for an alley. Many of the streets are that way,
So-
or highways especially.
So an easy way, I wouldn't say easy, but one way to take care of that is just make it a dedicated easement, and then they can take care of it any way they want to, is that correct? As long as they
Well,
don't block it for them.
It really depends on what it is in fact now, and we don't have enough information to tell us yet.
Okay, so we need to find out exactly how it's platted?
Well, if it is in fact was a platted subdivision, that's the question. An easier example is one of the more modern subdivisions like, let's say Hanson Meadows. See, those alleys were all platted, just like the streets, and dedicated to the city when the subdivision was recorded and the dedication was made, and they were all done pursuant to city specifications, pursuant to the subdivision control ordinance. But back when this was done, if it was platted, there was no subdivision control ordinance. So they weren't required to and didn't improve the alley. And if in fact it is a city alley, which it appears to be, the city has no obligation to improve it. However, the next question is, well, if the city has no obligation to pave it or open it, then what do the persons living on either side of it have a right to do? And I think with permission of the Board of Works, they could do whatever they wanted to try to open it to access their property. But the problem is, if they don't own on either side of the area of the alley they're working from, and not knowing exactly where the boundaries are, you may be trespassing on your neighbor's property.
How wide is an alley? Do you have any idea how wide it would be?
Well, standard is 16 and a half feet.
16 and a half?
Yeah, but I don't know about this one.
Should we table this, Mr. Baker, until you can further review it, rather than talk about it forever and
Well,
not?
still not sure what the folks want to do. Do you want
We would
to,
like either
you
to
want to
have,
try to access the alley for your personal uses?
Do you want to own it? Is that what you're saying?
You wanna make a yard out of it?
I would like to, we want to put a privacy fence up, because they never mow the grass. But we don't want to put a privacy up where our thing is now, and then y'all decide to do it that way, and then we have our fence up here, and they're not gonna mow our grass back, you know what I mean? We want to put a privacy fence up, but,
You already want the city to take care of it.
I'm sorry,
You want the city to take care of it.
yeah, to decide what
Mow
to,
it.
yeah, do
Why
with
can't you
it.
put the privacy fence up to the edge of your property line?
Where it's at now?
Yes.
This one? Well, we could.
And you wouldn't have to worry about it. unless you're just worried about what's gonna go on the other
I
side.
think her husband expressed to me, he wanted to have, it'd been nice to have some access to that part of the property from, whether he, with the city's blessings to go down through there and knock down, there's a couple of trees there, and they're good-sized trees. Whether he cleared that out and everything else, not really making a traveled alley like what's back in the 800 block, so to speak, but something he can get access to, and even the other two properties, although they're rentals, but the owners of that could have access to the back of their properties also, or if the city wanted to relinquish it and somehow, which
Maintain.
we went through something similar to this, but they own both sides of the property. The properties on both sides of that old alley was owned by the same people, and it's not in this case.
They would access from 10th or 8th, or is that what you mean?
No, the only access they have to the rear of their fence, if you wanted to put a fence in there, then they're gonna have to get out to where all that stuff is grown up and everything, and have some room to work on that back side of the fence. So having access to the back of that fence and everything else, if he felt like he has to go in and cut all that stuff out and everything else, then what the city access was, or should be doing, to get back there to do work on his property. So that's why he expressed to me, and is that about the same as I'm in the ballpark here, Mary?
I think so.
But again, it goes back to the question, are you asking for ownership of it, or are you just asking to be allowed to clean it up?
Well, we're asking for ownership of it, I guess, is what
That's-
Carl wants.
Yeah.
Or half of it, or whatever, and then we was gonna clean it up and put up a new fence. Rather than put up a new fence and then, I don't know.
Well, isn't that a utility line going across that property right there on that area, whether it's an alley or an easement?
Perhaps.
If it is a utility, then you have to leave it as an easement. You can't put a permanent structure up on it, regardless whether it's an alley or an easement, right?
We don't know that, but what it is, right?
But I mean, either one, you can't block it if there's a utility going down there,
No.
correct?
Well, it
That's right.
depends on how their easement reads, if it's overhead or underground or
But
maintenance.
it's overhead, looks like, there's something there.
Yeah.
Transformer box, it's up on that pole right at
Power
the
line,
corner of our yard.
Some sort.
That's a power line.
Yeah, so there has to be an easement left at least, so you can't put a fence under
Well,
an easement, can you? Or-
it can be, the alley can be closed and the easement can remain.
Oh,
But,
okay.
we've done that in the past. But what happens when some neighbors want to close an alley, they file a formal petition with the city council. And traditionally, and the one that I remember that was done pursuant to statute, and it's been quite a while now, was the one done at Mousie's Restaurant on Western Avenue. And they closed alleys there, but they did it pursuant to the statute, and they followed the statutory requirements, and had it surveyed, and then, as a matter of fact, they closed 2 alleys, one going in both directions. But anyhow, it was surveyed, and the exact description of the alley was included in the petition, and the petitioners that didn't sign the petition that were adjacent to the alley were given notice that the petitioners who were adjacent to the alley had petitioned to close the alley. It was published, and then you have a public hearing, and so on. And then, if in fact it's closed, then an ordinance is drawn closing the alley. And then depending on the type of alley it is, but usually what happens is each owner on each side becomes the owner to the center of that land. They just become the owner then, once the alley is in fact closed by the city council.
What do you recommend this board do today, Mr. Baker?
Well, this board can't close the alley.
That's what I
It has to be
figured.
done with the city council by ordinance.
Okay.
And so, but traditionally, when the alleys are closed, the persons that want to close the alley seek an attorney's advice and get the information you need. It's all done by Indiana statute, so you need to have some guidance on how to do it.
Now, here's the transformer post they're talking about, right here. And the alleyway's supposed to be here, but all these trees and stuff are right there, and they couldn't get through there. So they ended up carrying it down from from beach down to the transformer thing.
There was another
So it's
picture,
not an alley, I mean, nobody can use it.
there were some other pictures with some wires kinda hanging there. What are those
They're
wires?
the wires that are hanging off of that post.
Cable and phone.
They're just kinda low, you know.
Well, I guess, I'm not opposed to,
On the hill,
I think.
they own both sides.
point
It
I was
makes it
trying to make-
relatively simple.
Yeah.
Even if you get it closed as an alley, the easement's probably gonna have to be left, so you can't put a fence there unless it's susceptible to getting torn down if there's an easement there. I mean, you'd lose your money, I think that's,
Well, once the survey's done, a
Yeah.
formal survey, a legal survey, the surveyor determines what in fact is there, what easements,
And what's
what types
necessary?
of
Okay.
right-of-way it is, platted or not, and all those things are determined by the surveyor. And then you know what you have to work with.
I notice also on that, the property they do own, if you look, I drew a line of their property they own, and it takes in that whole alley. Mr. Bergen bought the address at 903 Beach, and I don't know where the property line was, but if you look on yours, that colored picture there, it showed that property line coming over here and blocking that alley. So someplace down the line, evidently, that section of the alley got,
Is that on the abstract?
that's on what I got on,
It got included in the legal description of the lot, perhaps erroneously, but it is included.
so I don't, you know, the only thing I can say is if you and your husband's probably going to have to go the route that the city attorney here has advised. But if they choose not to relinquish the alley to you, then the city would have to kind of keep that a little more cleaned up, correct?
So that's purely a city decision.
So, which brings us into another thing with, I talked to her husband, Carl, about, was he's got a septic system.
Yeah.
And his house, where his house sits, the north of that lot there that he owns there, that's listed here, is a wooded area, and he's been cutting wood out there, but it kind of sinks down and then goes up, and it goes up, then it goes into that old railroad thing that used to be there. Well, years ago, utilities told them, and since you are the utility board, utilities told them that they had to put a lift station in there. Now, they got sewer next door and across the street and north of them on 10th and Oak, but they couldn't have sewer. They got water and that type of thing, but they don't have any sewer there. They got the septic system. So I called Dave on the phone and gave him an update on that. I told Carl I would try to find out some information on that for him. So Dave, did you research that? And can you enlighten us on that?
Yeah, if you're familiar with the property, and I see you have maps there, its location does not, thank you, does not allow for a city sewer. Now, if you live in the city of Connersville and you choose not to hook up to the city sewer, your choice, you're charged a sewer fee whether you hook up or not. If it's not your choice, as in their case, they're unable to because of their elevation, they are not charged a monthly sewer fee. On their bill, they'll have water, trash, stormwater, but they do not have sewer fees. They currently have, I understand, a septic tank. If they want a lift station to hook into the city sewer, they can do that. And by ordinance, Connersville Utilities can refund them up to $1,000 at the cost of the installation of that lift stations, if they chose to do that. And that is true, they're not on city sewer, true, they're not being charged for it, and if they chose to put in a lift station and hook up to city sewer, Connersville Utilities, after its completion, can reimburse them up to $1,000.
So this septic system that they're using, is it just in the ground like a regular, just a septic tank? Is that what we're saying?
I don't know, there are situations.
Yeah. Septic tank
Go ahead,
down in the
Karen.
ground that's on the north side of the house in the hole. They have a septic tank in there. Nice of you. We like to get on this city stuff, but it's a matter of cost, you know.
If I'm not mistaken, and maybe I am mistaken,
Cost a
but
fortune.
I think Indiana code requires you to be on city sewer, doesn't it not?
I don't know.
I'm
no.
positive, if you're within so many
Yeah.
500 feet or something like that, I think Indiana code in the city limits requires you to be
Well-
on the sewer.
Also understanding how long they've been there and how long the situation has occurred. Whether that is a grandfathered situation, I don't know.
I don't know.
But if they are to hook up, again, Congress Utilities can reimburse them after it's been installed up to that amount, up to $1,000.
Yeah, I would encourage that right away.
Well, I think it's
Yeah.
the cost of doing all that. We don't have that kind of money.
But it bears the fact, I think it's illegal.
I don't
Mr.
know.
Baker, can you help us with that?
I don't know that it is, if
I mean,
there
unless,
are
like you
physical
said,
restrictions to prevent them from hooking on, you know.
If I understand correctly, and rural utilities, this happens often. If you're within so many feet, and I think the new rule's like 300 or 100, or, it used to be 300, now it's down to 100, I think. But if you're with that close within a public sanitary sewer system, you must hook on or pay fee equal to that amount anyway.
Right.
Now, whether they have to hook on or not, I don't know, but they would pay the fee whether they hooked on or not. And there are some in Connersville that are that way. Here's an example.
Right. But
That's just the way it was
they have a
without it.
physical prohibition of hooking on at all.
Right.
And to require them to hook on, which I don't think you can do, because they can still have the septic system and not, and pay the fee, if in fact they were able to hook on. The city would have to install a lift station.
Yeah, if they were able to hook on, but chose to stay at the septic tank, then we would charge them a monthly fee. But currently, and nor have we ever charged that address a sanitary sewer fee. If she's officially requesting to hook on, then the board can approve that. They can, we can put a tap there. They can pay the fees for the tap. They can then put in a lift station and come to that tap, and then we could reimburse them up to $1,000 for that lift station.
Question. Dave, how much would something like that cost a homeowner though?
I think, let me check my ordinance, but I think the tap itself is $1,000. And then there is an inspection fee of, let me check for sure, but inspection fee of $100, I think. Let me check that for sure. So I think it's $1,100 total to hook on to a city sewer if you live in the city.
That includes the lift station?
No,
I didn't think so.
no, the lift station remains the ownership of the property owner.
Right.
We will not own that.
That's where your cost.
But do you know
that's
how
where your
much
big
those
cost.
are?
No, I don't, because there's a variety of kinds.
Well, I can share with you this, it wouldn't be unusual for a lift station to cost $5,000-$6,000, that's not gonna be unusual. But that's reciprocal, if your septic system went bad, you can pay $10,000-$12,000 for a new septic system. So that's kind of a wash. And I'm just giving you advice here, but anytime you can get on a city utility, it's gonna behoove your whole property to go to the city utility versus an old system that's probably one of these days gonna be bad on you anyway. And then they're gonna force you, they won't let you put the septic system back in. So,
Now, the fees to hook on city sewer, if you live inside the city limits, it is $1,000 for the connect, and it's $11 for the inspection. So it's $1,011 to hook on.
Plus the price,
Plus
plus
the
the
lift.
price of the lift.
Well, again, that's them.
That's the owner.
Right.
Correct, yeah.
yeah. But like I say, let's say your septic system went bad tomorrow, and you had to put in a new septic system. It's a wash either way. A new septic system will probably cost you more than a lift station.
See, what I've heard Carl say so many times is,
Yeah.
to put the lift station in, they wanna run it all uphill to 8th Street, instead of maybe like running it down to 10th Street.
Well, that's.
And
I
then-
didn't-
Could be
I don't know.
fiscal restrictions. I don't know the reason why, but there could be.
The people across the street from us, they went down their yard, I reckon, and down the hill toward Lincoln Avenue, isn't that what's at the bottom? And they hooked on down there.
I don't know how they hooked on.
So what are we gonna worry about discussing here? We gonna discuss the alley, or we gonna discuss the septic, or where we at?
Well, I think their step is to decide whether or not they want to pursue an alley closing. That's
Yeah.
one possibility. The other possibility is whether or not they want permission, in this case it would be from the Board of Works, to actually go on to the right-of-way and do work on the right-of-way at their expense. And if they do, we would have to enter into an agreement including insurance coverage and several things. That hold harmless agreements and various things like that.
If they want to assume ownership, a survey would have to be made, and it's at their cost.
They have to close the alley,
Yes.
And it goes to each adjoining landowner, not to them solely.
I see.
Yeah.
But the cost of the survey is borne by those
The
folks.
petitioner,
Yes.
or petitioners, there can be several. People living along the alley can join together and petition.
That'd be the first step, or they...
That would be one way. The other way would be to strike an agreement with the city to do some cleanup on the alley, some improvements, some, whatever they want to do to make the alley more accessible. And then we would have to strike an agreement with
David, are you
that.
familiar with the situation?
Somewhat, yeah.
What's your thought? Can the city get in there and clean it up,
It's
or?
been a mess that way probably since back in the 40s. So it's isn't a new problem whatsoever.
Your men could clean it up, keep it?
Yeah, we can clean it up.
Have to be filled in part of it first,
Yeah,
though.
we do a lot of work to it, a lot of work to
15
doing it, but it's been that way for a long, long, long time.
Fine.
If the city did it, of course, took that responsibility on, which it doesn't have to, but if it elected to, then that would all be at the city's cost,
Yes.
of course. And otherwise, it would be at the cost of the property owners.
And this board makes those decisions?
Right.
There, I guess the first step would be if you want to get with the neighbors, and if you folks want to survey, pay for a survey, and then see what develops from that.
Well, the only neighbors that are even close to involved in it are the two houses that's behind me, which both their yards look like the
And
pictures
their
I took.
rentals, did you,
They're rentals, but I can find out who owns them.
who?
I can find out who
I
owns them.
see, okay. I know we haven't given you much satisfaction, but I don't know.
I think
What else?
just making the board aware of this, that there's a couple issues up on the property that her husband expressed to me as being your ordinance enforcer. And so, I encouraged him to come, and of course, something came up and he couldn't make it, but his wife did.
Yeah.
He just got out of the hospital,
So,
and he's worse than he was when he went in, so.
well, that's probably the norms. So basically, to bring it to your attention, and you're aware of it, and give them some options, what they could possibly do, and go from there in regards to their plumbing issue, and also for the alley in the back. And I'll find out some more information for John, and maybe approach the board at a later time with some more information, getting with Mr. Bergen when he feels a little bit better, and you can tell him what his options could be and all this,
Okay.
on both subjects. So that's basically it at this time, I can see.
I think my biggest concern, rather than the alley, would be your septic, if it's been in there for a long, long time, because Ron makes an excellent point. If that thing goes, you're gonna be responsible to put a pump, put a lift station in and hook onto the city. So, I don't think there's much
Okay, well,
accomplished here.
we can move on then, if that's, we've reached the end of that item. The second item we will not pursue because the individual that put it on the agenda, requested that be put on the agenda, is not available. So we'll go to the resolutions that we have. There are 35 resolutions. Julie, why so many resolutions?
Fran, we're trying to rob from two
Christmas.
people and
It's
get
Christmas.
everything covered. And a lot of it was kind of guesswork on our part because we're trying to cover payroll funds and we haven't done our last payroll yet, so I'm hoping that.
Well, the 6 for the fire department, 2 for cable TV, 4 for police, 2 for general fund, 3 for motor vehicle highway, 8 for the park, 1 each for city hall, Department of Transportation, police pension, the landfill, first aid, legal department, and we also have two for the airport. Have you had a chance to review them? Any questions?
I have one on the police on 2013-104,
In the overtime,
38, well, it comes to $45,000. Is that the new hires we've been covering, or is that the yearly overtime, or what?
It's there, we have to, at the end of every year, we have to buy back their comp time,
Okay,
and that's, comp time is in essence overtime,
yeah.
and that was a fairly sizable figure this year.
Yeah.
well, and the same thing with the fire department, right?
Not in overtime,
But it's fringe benefits to,
other employees,
okay,
and that was, we just underestimated. They bought back vacation time, but it wasn't much, and they can't accrue comp time like the police department can.
Julie, would you suggest maybe that we review this maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times a year before we come down to the end, maybe?
Well,
Would that be advisable?
might not be a bad idea
Is it doable?
to look at it. I'm sure they can pull it. They can.
Quarterly, maybe do it
Kind of
quarterly?
see how we're running before we get down to the end of the year and hit this.
That's a good idea.
and the general fund for AMT, fringe benefits to all the drivers, overtime, perf, and fringe.
Yeah, we'll see, we hired 2 new guys this year that we didn't have in the budget, so.
Okay,
And I had made another transfer earlier, but I had to get down to this point in time to see exactly where we were gonna be.
What is
Yeah.
the,
Make sure it was
yeah, that's
covered.
toward the end, yeah, I realize what, and the park, 2013-117, what was, it was for the Miller Building, $2,279. Had
What we
some
gonna do
work
with that
there.
money?
Buy some more tables and chairs.
Yeah,
We have a
he
little
wanted,
extra.
they had extra money in those, and they wanted to buy some tables and chairs for the
So,
new building.
okay,
John isn't here to answer, but maybe you can, Julie, on 2013-120, $1,000 part-time, what is that?
I did that. We needed money in perf, and he was low on part-time, and I didn't know if he was gonna need it
Okay,
for, he may not even use it,
okay, that's fine.
but I just wanted to have it there in case he needed
Oh,
it
that's
at
good.
ball games and stuff, we really get covered.
That's good.
any other questions that anyone have on these resolutions, transfers?
Well, Fran, I would just like to have it put on record, we probably ought to review that overtime and comp time maybe, at least quarterly or something like that,
Bless you.
so we can kind of see how that's running and keep a little better track of what's going on there.
Well, of course, we had some additional appropriations
Yeah,
For overtime,
for,
yeah.
yes, overtime. This council's approved
okay.
during the year.
This comp time thing is just, we pay it all out at the end of the year. That's
Mhm.
accrued throughout the year. It's in essence overtime, but it pays out at the end of the year, anything we haven't used.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion concerning the resolutions?
I move that we take them as one, resolution 2013-101 through 2013-133.
Second, please.
Okay, you've heard the motion that we approve these 35 resolutions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? Okay, thank you. Departmental matters, utility department. David?
Hello again.
I did.
I want to mention a few things to you about our meters. As you know, they've installed the Badger meters, start reading those automatically. Because of the amount of failures that the transmitters were having each month, the mayor worked out a way to buy additional meters and transmitters from Badger Meter in 6-month increments.
Yes.
I believe that will not be fast enough. What I would like to do is accelerate that purchase. You have already approved the purchase, already approved the numbers. We have the money. All I need is permission from you to accelerate the purchase.
The 3,000 that we were...
Yeah, the transmitters themselves that we can put on the existing Badger meters, I'd like to buy 3,000 of them. Currently, the plan was not to buy them until 2015.
Okay.
I'd like to do that now.
And we do have the money available.
Yes, both, because those are taken from both water and sewer funds, because they are the meter for both departments. It's split half and half. I do have figures I'll give you, but I'd like to accelerate that, get 3,000 right away. We can start installing those. That will eliminate all that extra manpower that's currently being used to read several days. We did have an issue this last time where we had a water leak during that time, so we had to choose, do you fix a water leak or do you read meters? Well, they're both important. So
Mr. Baker,
we tossed a coin that landed on the
Do we need something on paper to,
No, you can make it part of your minutes.
that we can approve his request to purchase,
Sure, if you choose to do so.
I want to accelerate the purchase of those retrofits. I also want to accelerate the purchase of the whole meters. What I would like to do is buy the retrofits now, and then have 1,000 whole units, whole meters purchased in mid-March.
okay, 3,000 retrofits
Yes,
and 1,000
whole meters.
home units, okay.
And then the last 1,000 whole meters in mid-May. My date says 3/17 and 5/19, but somewhere in the
David, you
middle.
said there had been some previous negotiations with the city and the company.
Yes.
Does all this fit within those parameters?
Yes. What they did was, they can still provide us all the product, but we're asking for product ahead of what we agreed to pay. And they're not used to that. They don't typically front somebody that much product, and so they offered us to go through a municipal loan situation, which actually would cost us over $96,000 just for that. And we can go do a lot of things with $96,000 as opposed to pay interest.
How much are we talking about here, David?
Okay. The 3,000 units, they're $125.40 a piece. 3,000 units, so that's $376,200. And that will split half and half water sewer department. And then the whole units, the whole meter, they are $161.35 a piece. And this was negotiated. The original retail price was much higher than that.
Really?
The mayor negotiated this
They
down.
did, yeah.
How much will they do?
So there are
161.35.
Yeah, 161.35, which makes 1,000 meters as $161,350. I'll do that with your approval, I'll do that in March, and then again in May, and that will be all radio read meters will now be installed or purchased for Connersville and should be installed by summer.
But basically, the reason why you're wanting to do this is so we got them here when we got time to put them in. They're available.
And the latter ones, I want to wait to get those in because their warranty starts when they ship them.
Good plan, yeah.
Good idea. Okay, you've heard the proposal. Any questions, additional questions for David? If not, would the board like to give him permission to proceed?
I'll make that motion that we allow Dave to go ahead and pre-order these meters and the retrofits now and have them so we got them on hand since the cost has already been approved.
Second that.
Okay, for the motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? Okay, David.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
That
I
sounds
do want to
good.
ask about a handheld device. That was not part of the original purchase with the accelerated installation and what we believe will be even better service to the customer. There is a handheld reading device that you can take actually to the site as opposed to trying to get the laptop to the site. I'd like to purchase one of those. The price for that is
6,000.
Yep, thank you. It's $6,176.50. Again, that's a negotiated price down from its original almost 8, I think. But what this handheld device will do is not only allow 2 people to work if necessary, but it allows for the customer service man or meter employee to go to a site. They can detect any tampering, any leakages, any other what they call trouble codes with that meter. And I think that it's a good use of employees that way. For the amount of cost you're going to invest and what we can do with that, I think it'd be wise use of our employees.
We have the funding available to pay for this.
Yes, again, it'd be split 50-50 as the 2 departments.
It's a time saver too, I mean.
Yes, very much.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably pay for itself in a couple of years and things that we find.
Just in labor.
Yeah. What's the board's pleasure on his request to purchase this handheld?
I move we give him permission to purchase the handheld reader for meters at $6,176.50.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, you've heard the motion, the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, none opposed? Okay, then.
Thank you.
Dave, I have a question on our new system, once it's up and running. I thought that all transmits straight back to the plant.
No, right now, at the moment, it goes to the laptop that's in the truck as it drives by. It's called an ME system because it's migratable. We can then put local units to transmit those meter readings right back to that local unit and then to the office. We can read in real time from the office. But currently that's... No, from the meter itself. If we did that, these are migratable, meaning right now we use the laptop to read. If we chose to spend additional money in years to come, we can put local antennas to pick those up and send it right to the office. We would not need the actual drive-by.
Okay.
And you can read it in real time. And which helps greatly when people come in, they're moving, or you detect a leak. As you know, down at Everton, they drive by and it detects that meter has moved, has not had a 2-hour sleep in 24 hours. That indicates a leak. They can flag it right then.
Dave, does that, to Ron's point, when you read that, does that store that on a hard drive?
Yes.
It's transferable in case the thing just goes kaput, you can pull out a chip and...
And I think it's actually on one of the flash drives.
Okay.
So in case the hard drive fails while they're driving.
That's fine.
It's on that flash drive.
Good.
And then they bring it in and load it to our billing system.
Thank you.
I guess I missed, I thought this new system was going to be reading direct from the office, but I guess it's
No,
not. so.
it has the capabilities with future expansion.
And money.
I thought we talked about that, but anyway, okay.
That's why it's called the migratable system.
Have you noticed any increase in the money brought in with the new meters?
Well, we've only had one reading period so far with the 940 that we have installed, so.
Too early to tell?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And we usually have a few months to.
First
to know
quarter
that.
next year, we should see it for sure, shouldn't we?
Particularly if we can get these retro reads in the ground, because you can install those up to 3 times faster than you can a regular meter. As I explained to you.
Yes.
Instead of shutting water off and remove the entire meter, you just change the top and the transmitter.
Good. Okay, any other requests to spend money?
Just some policy changes I'd like to make.
Okay.
As you know, a little while back, the board approved the changing of the work hours for our customer service man.
Yes.
He now, instead of working 8 to 5, he now gets off work at 4 o'clock, as all the other employees do. That changes the manner in which we have to handle customer service in the office, because now he's going home at 5 and our office is still open till 4:30, and we have to cut off at least half hour before he goes home so he can get everything done. So we've got some lag time there. I would like to change our business hours, the hours that the office is open. Currently, it's 8:30 to 4:30. I'd like to change those to 8 to 4, that will match what the customer service man works.
And I asked you if there was much traffic in the last half hour from 4 to 4:30 now, and you said it was very minimal.
It depends on the day, but typically minimal.
Yes.
But depending on the day, and of course, a delinquent day or due date. And then we always have our drive-through pay area, or they can pay online.
Yes, and then the lobby is open that they can have access.
Lobby will be open up until 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Fran, and to the board, Dave and I talked about this, and it pretty much makes sense to have
Yes,
them
I
all
think
on the
so.
same hours. I mean, that way you don't have somebody waiting and can't get any service.
Yeah, where we cannot take any more service requests after 3:30 PM up to 4. The way it's working now, we're telling people no at 3:30, and we still have the office open till 4:30.
Yes, yes.
And that, it's hard to get people to understand that, and sometimes we have difficulty.
Well, it makes sense, and you'll be putting that on the bill, I assume, to the office hours.
We want to, and the reason why I want to come today and ask for your approvals, we have enough billing stock for one more billing, and our hours are printed on it.
Sure.
So we would like to get new ones and have the new hours if so approved.
Any thoughts on changing the hours by 30 minutes?
Allow me to mention this to you also. As you know, our employees work 40 hours a week. They come in a half hour before the actual office opens, so they can get their drawers open, their computers on, the paperwork on. They've got the drive up and their 2 desk windows, get all that ready. And then at the end of the day, when they close, they're there for another half hour to make an 8-hour day. And the reason they're another half hour is sometimes we still have 1 to 5 customers in line. We can't shoo them out. And then they have to balance their, or count back, they call it, their desk, their money drawer, and finalize things. So we usually give them a half hour before and a half hour after. That makes an 8-hour day. They've been an 8-hour day. Well, I know that when they moved over there in '98, they were 8-hour days then. So I don't know how long it's been. But my plan would be, with the approval of the board, of changing the hours to business hours, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., that I would change their work hours, 7:30 a.m. to 4:30. Still the same 8 hours that they normally work, just it's a half-hour difference.
And this, you've discussed this with the current staff and everybody's,
With the office manager particularly.
okay.
Any comments from anyone? Does the board feel it's a good idea? Someone like to make a motion that we adopt the new business hours for utilities department?
So move.
Second.
Heard the motion and the second that we include the business hours to 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday for the utility department on Vine Street. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? Okay, Jim, passed.
Okay. And understanding that that gives them a half hour before and after too.
Yes. Yeah,
Because the office staff does work 40 hours a week, the ordinance has people working 40 hours a week and people working 35 hours a week, the way it states, but none of them work 35 a week. So the ordinance would have to, I would like to see the ordinance language changed, and I know that's something that the board would have to recommend to the
Yes, the
council
council has to do that.
and so forth. But I do have copies that I can give you, and it states that some of them work 80 hours a week and some are 80 every 2 weeks and some 70 every 2 weeks, which is 40 and 35. And I like to change it all to just 40 hours.
Mr. Baker, you have to adopt the new ordinance?
Yeah, we would have to. I don't think any of the girls at the windows work, they all work 35 hours a week.
No, they all work 40. Yeah, they come in at 8 o'clock.
But the salary ordinance is written up for them
Right.
at 35 hours.
It says 35, and what happens is they work additional 1 hour every day, and because there's a clause in the in the ordinance that comp time would be reimbursed at 1 times their rate of pay, which basically pay them back for whatever work they work. They work 40 hours, and then they can either take that time off or get paid for it, and typically it's paid for. They just work 40 hours. And I've got that here if you guys want to see that.
Mr. Baker, what is?
If we're not currently using the 35 that's in the ordinance, to me, it seems like a moot point, we're just not using it, but it's a safeguard to go back on in case of potentially there's some financial reason we have to look at people's hours. We don't have to write the ordinance again to go back to 35
That might be a
hours?
safeguard, but if the office staff works anything less than 40 hours, it would be difficult. In my opinion, it'd be difficult to get them to get the jobs done and to serve the customer correctly.
What you're recommending is that the city council consider amending the ordinance from 35 hours to 40 hours.
Change all the hours to the same.
It says 35 and 40 now.
The bookkeeper and the office manager already work 40 hours. And the girls work all of them work 40 hours. Sorry if I call them girls. But
Yeah.
The ladies-
What it does is result in comp time and.
It does. It creates comp time every week. So in a 2-week period, they've got 10 comp times. That can cause difficulties in the future. How do we? If they take it, they don't take it. They can accumulate it. If they accumulate it, then they take time off, which really we need them there, not time off. They have vacations, personal days for that. I tell you what I can do. I've got these. I can copies. I can give these copies to you. I really think it's best interest of Connors Utilities and the customers if we do that. But
I would like us to really look at it before we make
Sure.
make a decision. Since we didn't have it in our packets, I think it's something we need to look at.
Sure. I can do that. And I mean, it'd probably easiest if I just hand these to you after
We
the
need a
meeting.
motion to just table that, Fran.
I move that we table this request till the next meeting after we had a chance to take a look at it.
I'll second that.
In the meantime, I will continue to work them 40 hours as they are, understanding that comp time thing may interfere with some scheduling.
Okay, you've heard the motion, the second, we table the request to alter the hours of utility workers, office employees.
Or restate the ordinance, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
To amend the ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
Concerns the working at the utilities office. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll table that to a future meeting.
Okay. One other thing regarding the ordinance, I still have some days off as vacation. I cannot get them in by the end of the year. I would like to exercise the right that is in the ordinance where, with the Board of Works approval, I can hold those vacation days over to the next calendar year, as long as I use them within the first 6 months. I like to exercise that right if it's approved by the board.
How many do you have?
I have 13 days.
Is that possible, Mr. Baker?
If the ordinance provides it.
Let's see.
Would you like for me to read it? Or?
Yes.
It says, subject to the approval of the Board of Works and Safety, vacation time could be allowed to be carried over due to unforeseen circumstances. Vacation time carried over under emergency circumstances must be used within the first 6 months of that year.
I'd like to make a comment, if I may, to the board. Because of the circumstances with Dave retiring in August,
Bill?
and Bill, I'm sorry, retiring, and then Dave taking over, there was just not a lot of time for him to get his vacation, and I appreciate the fact that he stayed with it and did not go ahead and do that, so I would like to make a motion that we approve this.
I'll second.
And my plan is just to take the 2 next, I'm not taking all 13, just 10 days.
That's fine, I understand, we worked that out.
Okay, you heard the motion and the second that we allow the supervisor of the utility plant to
No,
take vacation days from 1 year to the next to be used in the first 6 months of the following year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed?
Another issue is, there is currently a void in our employment, Connersville Utilities.
Yes.
We're in need of a water crew, water plumber helper. There's no one within Connersville Utilities that has applied for that, leaving a void. So I'd like to fill that with a new hire. The new hire will come in at that rate minus $3 an hour. After a
What is the
year,
rate, David?
it's called apprentice rate.
And it is how much?
It is $17.59 an hour minus the $3.
Okay,
And after 12 months, it's minus $2, additional 12 months, minus $1, additional 12 months, they're at their rate of pay.
so it takes them, 4 years to reach full pay?
Yeah. And I have a recommended person. I think you have letters in front of you signed by myself and the mayor
Yes.
recommending an individual. Recommendation comes to me, he's highly recommended, not just from those who know him, but myself, Superintendent at the wastewater plant, Mary Ellen Blanton, the mayor and I all met with him, discussed the job with him. We found his qualifications. He is, unlike this where it says licensed electrician, Ron and I discussed that earlier, and
Yes.
there's licensed plumbers, but not actual licensed electricians. Is that correct, Ron?
Yes, that's correct.
But
State, we're talking state license.
For
Just out of
Indiana
local.
State,
He's
yeah.
out of local.
Now, journeyman might have been a better word there, because he currently works out of an electric union hall, where we sign up to work, and he goes to a construction site, works till it's done, then goes back to hall and signs up again. So he is very skilled in the electrical field. I think he'd be a valuable asset. His name is Tony Jarbo. He's a local fella, grew up here in Connersville. And if approved to hire him, I would like to have his start date as Monday, January 6th. We have found that if you start people at the end of the year, it makes a difficult time with how you figure the vacations and so forth, so
Taxes.
it's okay by him if he doesn't start till the first of the year.
And is it a probationary period that?
There is a 90-day probationary period, yes.
Okay. Any questions?
They need to be reevaluated.
From any of the board members? Trustee Clark?
I make a motion that we hire this gentleman by the name of Mr. Tony Jarbo, and his effective hire date will be January 6, 2014.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, heard the motion second, that we hire Tony Jarbo for the Utilities Department effective January 6, 2014. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, David.
We still are accepting resumes for the job of assistant utility manager and department/water department supervisor, looking at specific qualification for someone in that position, but we still are accepting resumes.
Okay, good.
Anything else?
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you much.
Well, have a safe and Merry Christmas, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Merry Christmas.
Department head, EMS, nothing, street department, anything?
Trash every day next week, but
We're talking
Christmas,
about trash pickup at Christmas?
yeah. Christmas trash next week will run Monday, Tuesday, and we're off Wednesday for Christmas, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So, and it'll be this following thing for the week of New Year's. We'll just be closed the one day for the trash pickup on the day of.
Okay,
So that way the trash runs the 5 days.
same for New Year's?
Yes, it's both weeks.
So the Wednesday trash pickup will be Friday.
Yeah, just booze back after the holiday on Wednesday.
Wednesday will be Thursday and.
Right,
Thursday was
Friday, and then Saturday will be Friday, or Saturday will be Friday. It worked out pretty good the last time, so,
yeah,
we
it
did that, so.
Okay.
Getting less and less calls these times, so
Is
it
that
is
all you
getting better.
have?
Just get the habit of it. I have
Got
a,
plenty of salt?
Yeah,
Been using some?
yeah. And sand. And hours.
And hours, I was
Remember
gonna
hours.
say. Yeah, labor.
I have one question, and it may be
Sure.
for Julie, just, and it can't be answered today, but a question I had when we got the new automated trash trucks, one of the selling points, and I think we talked to Mr. Creech about it, was when they just set out bags and cardboard boxes, the weight of the water, and we pay by tonnage. Now that we've done a full year, can we see what the tonnage rate, if we've saved any from the first year?
We'd have to talk to Tom.
Okay, if you could talk to Tom, I'd like to see if we saved any the
And
first
it will
year.
be a full year, starting middle of January. Is that when we
Yeah.
started it?
It's been really good with the lids being down when we pick it up, so I know that's had to
Yeah.
drop it some.
And we thought it would, but I'd like to see if we can see it the first year, if we see any savings.
Because there's not many lids I see of a morning that's, the lids are open on. What you'll see is some lids closed with stuff on top of the lid, but still, I
Sometimes
don't,
it's sort of open.
but hopefully rain came from the other direction, so.
Okay. Public forum, apparently not any other business. Miscellaneous business. Okay, if not, we'll go to claims. Mike, you want to give the utility claims?
Sure. Water was $100,827.06. Sewer was $123,000, $259.34, excuse me. Stormwater was $6,837.52, and trash was $50,516.07, for a total of $281,439.99.
David, I noticed on your overtime, $9,721. Is that because of the putting the,
Meter installation.
okay, that's what I thought probably was.
And as you remember, a private company was asking $33,000 to do the same thing.
Okay.
And so the guys offered to do it, did a great job, and for that amount.
Is storm, excuse me, Fran, but while we're on that, I was gonna ask, and I forgot, is that why stormwater's up too, because of the meter installation on overtime? Not stormwater, sewage plant, I'm sorry.
The wastewater plant, no, it's most likely because manpower during vacations,
Okay.
during holidays, there's
Fine.
been some holidays.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, David. City claims are 283, and the total amount was $223,330.06. Does I have any check? Anyone have any questions on city claims? We had two large ones I noticed, Julie, the park bond payment of $58,700.
Right, for the full payment.
And we had another one too,
And, was
I'm trying to
it
find it.
EDG or?
Yeah, we paid them.
EDG was 60 grand.
$60,000.
Yeah.
Those were the two big ones in there. Okay, you've heard the claims presented. What's your pleasure?
I move we approve the claims for payment as submitted.
I'll second.
You've heard that the claims be approved and presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Any other business to come before the board?
If I may, Fran, I would just like to take the opportunity to wish everyone out there a very Merry Christmas and a safe Christmas. And I hope everyone can find a little bit of peace during this time. And please remember our military that's far, far away and not going to be home with their families. And for those who do pray, continue to pray for Melissa's father. He's struggling, but he's improving. And that makes me very happy. Thank you, Fran.
Thank you, Mike. I think all the members of the board join you in that. Thank you. If no other business, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's a motion to adjourn, and a second, all in favor, say
Get some
aye.
extra pens.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.